What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Raphaelsinsights. Welcome. I welcome you into the world of the esoteric, the divine, the beautiful, you guys. Welcome. If you're new to this beautiful channel, you guys, welcome to this beautiful channel. And if you're not new, you guys, welcome back. Today's video is not necessarily predictions and it's not necessarily horoscopes. It is something that's really dear to me, and it's my experience, you guys. It's how I became me. It's what set me on this path. It's my revelation that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And it's not a revelation as in like a vision that I had. It was my awakening. It was like what triggered me to be on this path. This is my story, you guys. Before we go anywhere, you guys, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Make sure you like this video. This is such a personal thing that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. And I hope you guys like my story. I hope you guys like what happened in my life that put me in this path and in front of you right now. So let's get going, you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Follow me on all my social medias and like, share, you guys. So I feel like when a lot of people look at me, I feel like the first thing they think is like, oh, he probably comes from a very spiritual family. That's why he knows everything he knows. Like his family probably practices witchcraft or his paganism, or his family is a family of psychics, mediums, and I feel like that's the reaction that I get from everybody who sees me, and like they just dismiss me. Oh, it's just another psychic. But that's not true, you guys. My family has never been very spiritual. The most spiritual that we get is religiously. I grew up going to church every Sunday. I grew up Catholic. We did our first communion, we did our confirmation, we did our baptisms. Like that was the most spiritual my family got. My mom always taught us that even though the good exists, evil's gonna exist, but we can't believe in the evil. We can't believe in the devil. Even though this exists, we can't believe in witchcraft because witchcraft is bad. And that's kind of how I grew up. It's like, we can't believe in ghosts, we can't believe in this. And I grew up not believing in anything. I kind of just, my faith was always to God and what my parents told me. So yeah, it's kind of like, I wasn't very, my family, there's no one else other than me in my family that's spiritual in the way that I am. So it's like the way everything happened was very unique. I honestly don't make sense, to tell you the truth. But yeah, so I grew up in Los Angeles. We grew up very poor. We moved around a lot. I never really had roots. Like if I think back, like there's not really any place where I could think back and I'm like, oh, I miss my childhood home. I miss my childhood city where I grew up. No, because we moved around a lot. It's like we grew up very poor, and it's like we never really had a stable home. Even like up until 18 years old, I never really had a stable home. And then right before my parents bought a house, I enlisted into the military. So I never even lived in that house that they bought because I was shipped off. But I realize now that God wanted it like this. There was a specific reason as to God making me live my life like this, because even now it's like I've realized that everywhere I go there's a specific reason. For instance, like I was separated from my spouse. I ended up in this place. There was these two girls that used to come into my roommate's room that they wanted to hang out with him, and I would always see them, and I never really spoke to them, but they would always look at me, and like I always felt the need to talk to them. So one day I talked to the first one. She broke down crying. It got very emotional from what I was telling her. She broke down crying. She was very depressed, and like it was like I was there to stop her from suiciding, because I felt it. I know I need to talk to her. And then her friend was very emotional too. Her friend was very sad as well, and I felt the need to talk to her too, and I did, and I talked to her. And literally, you guys, the day after I talked to them, I was there for a while. But the day after I talked to both of them, finally, I received news that it was time for me to go somewhere else. They said, we're going to move you to somewhere else. And they moved me to that somewhere else. And when they moved me to that somewhere else, I like met my next assignment. You could say assignment. I guess you could say it like that. But there was a reason why I was there too. It's like I spoke to this person and they needed me too. And it's like, this person's very religious, and they made me realize as well. It's like almost like I had to realize something too, not only them. They made me realize that a lot of the things that I talk about, a lot of the things that I have experienced, it comes out in the Bible. It's like he was telling me like, oh, the story that you told me, it's like just like this story, it's like this and that. And I started realizing like, oh my God, maybe I am a prophet. Maybe that's what I am. And it took me a while, but I finally said, yes, I am a prophet. God, I am your prophet. But that's not really what my story is headed towards. It's not really, it's not a story about me becoming a prophet. There's still more to it, you guys. So there I was at age 22. And even that age, that number, you guys, that's a very divine number. And I'm going to read you, because I have it pulled up right here, the number meaning 22, angel number meaning 22. And you're going to be like shook when I read it to you, because it wasn't a coincidence that at age 22 is when I had my revelation. And I'm going to read it to you. Angel number 22 is a sign from your angels that you are on the verge of attaining spiritual wisdom of the highest order, and that you are called to share with the entire world. This angel number is a powerful confirmation from your angels of the power of your inner divinity. That is so crazy. I've never looked that up, you guys. You guys can literally go on Google and type in angel number 22 meaning, and it's gonna literally pull it up, and you're gonna be shook again, because that is literally what I'm doing right now. I literally am sharing all this with the world, and I didn't even realize that was the message from angel number 22. I knew it was a very special number, and I knew there wasn't a coincidence why I had the revelation at 22, and that just confirmed to me that what I'm doing now, it's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like there was a secret message embedded in even in my age. How crazy is that, you guys? That is so cool. That is so insane. But at age 22, it was weird because like the way that it fell into place, it was like there was this other person who was very spiritual, very, very, very gifted. She was born like that, and she was only 11, so she's a little kid. She was 11, I was 22. But ever since she was little, she would always say, "Oh, I see the dead. I talk to the dead," and all this stuff. And I was thinking, like, "Oh, you might be a little bit like crazy and whatnot." Like I was like, yeah, I don't know, because again, my mom, my dad taught me like this stuff doesn't exist, and that's kind of like how I was. I was like, I didn't believe in this stuff, but then she went from like seeing the dead to helping this kid that lived in Mexico, and she lived in somewhere else in the United States, and this kid lived in Mexico that drowned, and the parents were looking for the kid. And the only reason she said something was because she saw the news story, and she told her mom like, "Hey, this kid came to me last night. I know where his body is," because he had drowned. So I know where his body is. The police is looking for him in the wrong place. So the mom typed it up. She sent her the story like, "Hey, I'm only telling you this because my daughter wants me to tell you. I'm very protective for my daughter because she's very special, but my daughter said that your son's body is do." And sure enough, they stopped looking where they were looking, and they looked where the little girl said, and boom, it was there. And then it kind of interested me a little bit more to talk to her, because I started realizing like, okay, this girl is definitely, this girl is special. So one day I went to go visit my parents, and coincidentally, it felt like in the same like weekend, because I hardly got days off in the military, and I fell in the same like weekend as the party that the mom was throwing. So I went over to my parents, and my mom tells me like, "Hey, tomorrow we're gonna go over to their house because they invited us to this little like carne asada," and she was like, "Oh, if you want to go, you can, but if you're not, you can stay here." And I was kind of like, "No, like I'll go. Like that's cool. Like I've been wanting to talk to her anyways." And sure enough, I tagged along, and what happened that day, I was not planning for it. I did not expect that to happen. It was just like mind blowing. First of all, the first thing that happened is when I was walking into through the little like gateway to go to the back of the house, to the backyard, she like stopped me and she said, "Hurry up and eat. We have a lot to talk about." That was literally the first words that she told me. She said, "You have a lot of dead people following you. So you have hundreds and hundreds. So you collected them for a long time. Say, hurry up and eat. We have a lot to talk about," is what she told me. So I did. I ate really fast because I was so eager to talk to her, because I really wanted to know, like, am I special? Because I know I felt that I was special. I was different. I always felt like I was different. And so I sat down and talked to her, and she starts telling me, "You're just like me," she says. "Me and you, we come here with a mission," is what she was saying. She said, "But you, someone did something to you. Someone tried to close your gifts. That's why you've had such a hard time with opening them up and realizing them." And I remember when I was younger, I met someone who said they were going to teach me how to use my gifts, but something happened. He got mad and he said he was going to close my gifts and bind them so I would never be able to use them. But my gifts were very powerful because I remember I used to have like flashes of them, like flashes where I saw the dead or flashes where I had little visions here and there, but never like to the point where I'm at now. So when she said that, it kind of hit home, and I was like, oh my God, that's right. This dude did tell me that he was going to take them away. And she said, I can help you. She said, you just have chains over your gates. She said, let's go to my room. And here I go, 22-year-old going to this 11-year-old's room. And I went to that person's room, and she laid me down on the floor, and she said, let me call the angels. They're going to help us. And she said, I'm call all the archangels. And she called all the archangels, and the cat, I remember the cat started going really crazy. The cat started going like wild, and she goes, oh, the cats don't like the angels. They don't like the angels. And my cat gets crazy every time the angels are here. She's like, they're here. And I laid down. She's like, they're surrounding you right now. And so they're going to help us with you. And I remember she put her palms in the back, on my back, while I was laying down flat. And a bunch of other stuff happened. Like, she did a bunch of other stuff, but she prepared me like in a certain way. And then she told me that they were surrounding me. Archangel Michael was defending us. He was standing facing like towards the outside. And I remember she put her palms in the back on my back. And I remember all I started feeling was a lot of like heat. But then I started feeling like a lot of like ripples going through my body, like kind of like if you dropped a stone in the water and it started to like make ripples. And that kind of just started going through my body like over and over. And then all of a sudden she goes, all done. And she goes, I saw your gates. There was black chains around them, but I took them off. She said, you're going to be just like me. That's literally what she said. And I remember I stood up. And when I stood up, I was talking to her because I stood up and I started like feeling different. And I started seeing like, I started noticing little like different lighting, like, I don't know, it's like the lightings were different. It was like the silhouettes of lights that I started seeing were kind of like interesting to me because I'd never seen that before. And I asked her, because I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, standing in the corner of the room. He was very big, very buff, but he was made out of like a silhouette of light. But I could tell he was really buff, and he was wearing like kind of like armor. And I asked her, I was like, hey, what do the angels look like? And she goes, oh, the angels, they can make themselves really small. They can make themselves like our height, but they can be really big. Some can be really buff, really skinny. They're just like pretty much like humans. They can make themselves look like however they want. She points to the corner of that room, and she goes, there's one right there. He's really buff and he's really tall. He's almost touching the ceiling. And I said, oh my God. I was so breathtaking because that was the first time I ever saw an angel. And the fact that I was seeing it and she pointed straight to it, that just confirmed to me, without me telling her where it was or what I was seeing, that just confirmed to me like, okay, I'm not crazy. Something happened for reals. And then from then on, like that night, I learned how to cross over spirits because she taught me how to cross over spirits, because she said there was hundreds and hundreds of spirits there with me. And we sat down on a table. We kind of sat down. Can't really tell you that. We kind of prepared the table, and she kind of like walked me through it, and we did what we needed to do. And I remember like when I started talking to them and telling them to cross over, because what we did, we basically opened the door, we opened the light, and we started telling the dead to cross over. And I remember I just started feeling like this rush of like adrenaline and energy just hit me. It was like almost like if they're going through me to go into the light, and like I felt them all go through me. And I got really dizzy and really like, whoa. And then there were some really dark ones that were there, because I remember we kind of were like fighting with them. We're kind of telling them like, hey, you don't belong here. Like, let them cross over. And we kept telling the good spirits like, hey, like cross over, don't listen to that dark entity, like cross over, you guys need to be on the other side. And we kind of had to convince them. And that was kind of like that whole moment in that, like that whole night. And a lot more things happened, but that was basically like the gist of it. Then the next 2 days, I went back home 2 days later, and I met this guy. And this guy, he's like a whole nother story. He basically told me that he was just like me. He was gonna teach me how to do everything. That he literally came to that military installation that I was at to meet me, because he knew that I was about to waken up my spiritual gifts, that I was about to figure out who I am. And he told me I needed the dark side, that I needed the darkness, that I needed to accept the darkness, that even though I was made out of light, I needed to accept the darkness, that he wasn't good or evil, that he was good in the way that he destroys humanity, but then builds them back up. And I think if I continue speaking, I think you start realizing who that was. And he wanted me to accept the darkness, but from then on, it was just kind of like this battle of good and evil. It's like good and evil kept trying to, so the good would just appear, but they wouldn't tell me, come over here, come with me. But evil would always appear, and it was saying like, hey, come with us, accept the darkness. And I kind of was in this battle of good and evil. And I remember when I finally accepted, like, I don't know how I did it, but I finally accepted good completely. That same day, I was standing in my room, and that's when God appeared for the first time, because the angels had already appeared, but I hadn't met God yet. And I was standing in that room, and I remember I was arguing with my spouse, and then all of a sudden, like, it was like my spouse froze. My spouse froze, and all of a sudden the room started getting super, super, super hot. And it was like this really intense, overwhelming energy, but very, very peaceful. Very just overwhelming, because it made me feel really, really hot. Like to the point where my cheeks got hot, and I felt like I had a really high fever, but it wasn't hurting me. And then all of a sudden I heard the voice, my son. That was the first thing I heard, my son. He said, my son, I came down from my castle, my kingdom, to speak to you. He said, you have barely figured out who you are. You're barely starting your path, but you have a very, very long path. He said, I'm going to be coming down often to speak to you, but for now, blah, blah, blah. We kind of just had a conversation, and then he allowed me to ask him questions. And around that time, my mom was kind of like hesitant on believing me as well. And she had an altercation herself. Like my whole family didn't want to believe in me, but she had like a little like altercation herself, where like she was standing in the backyard, and she was doing something, and she saw something out of the corner of her eye. And this was still when she didn't want to believe in me. She still kind of thought I was going crazy. I think that my whole family thought I was going crazy. And she was doing something in the backyard of her house, and she saw something out of the corner of her eye, and she turned around and she looked at it. And she, even to this day, she's shook. Like, even to this day, she's like, she doesn't know how to explain it, because she said when she turned to look at it, she just saw this angel just floating in the sky with some really big, beautiful wings. And it was just staring at her. It wasn't saying anything. It was just floating there, staring at her. And she turned back because she freaked out, and she continued doing what she was doing. And then she thought, oh my God, what if this angel's here to collect me? Like, what if it's my time? I'm gonna fall in the pool. Like, maybe I should get away from the pool. And she turned back again, and she saw it again. There it was. The angel was still there, big, beautiful wings. And she turned back again, and she continued doing what she was doing. And again, she turned back, and third time. This is the third time, and it wasn't like little like peaks and then turned around. It was like she stared at it, looked at it for a good while, and then turned back. And in that third time, she looked back, and it was still there, you guys. The angel was still there. And then it turned, like, she turned back again. And then at the fourth time, it was gone. 3 times she saw it. That's not a coincidence. That's the Holy Trinity. 3 times is always the sign of the Holy Trinity. the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that was her experience. And I asked God in that moment when I had him in front of me, and I said, why did an angel show himself to my mom? And he said, I sent that angel, my son. He said, your mom did not want to believe in you, and I needed her to have complete faith because you were beginning to believe that you were going crazy. He said, I sent that angel, and I let that angel show himself to your mom. And I kind of just looked at him and I just said, what? And he just said, yes. And then he just kind of just told me like who I was, who I'm going to become. He said, wait 3 years and the whole world's going to know who you are. He said, I asked him about the cross that I have floating above my head. And he said, that is your most powerful gift. He said, the day you open that up, you'll know who you really are. You'll know how powerful you really are. The gifts that I have given you, he said. And he wasn't, and the reason I asked him, it was because that little girl was the one who brought it up. She said, oh, you have a cross floating above your head. And she had already told me that it was one of my gifts that still hasn't opened up, but it was really, really strong, and it was going to take time for me to open it. And sure enough, God said the same thing. God told me the same thing. And that was the first time God appeared to me. And then on, you guys, the story just continues on and on and on. But that is really my revelation. There's really everything that has happened. There's more to it, a lot more, but I think if I continue going on, this video is going to be never ending. I just wanted to share a little bit with you guys. But yeah, that's really how I became me. And so there's, you guys, the same way the good happened, the bad happened. Scary moments happened. It was definitely a scary, scary time, because like I said, the good was always there, but it was never like trying to pull me and saying like, hey, come with us, come with us. The bad, the evil was the one that's trying to convince me and pull me to their direction. But here I am, you guys. I chose the good. I finally accept that I'm my Father's prophet. I am here to give his messages. I am not perfect. I'm still human. I have many gifts, but I am still learning. I never said I was a pro with all of them or a pro with my gifts. I am still learning. You guys are literally watching me grow. This has just started, and this is going to go very, very far, you guys. You guys cannot even begin to imagine how far this is going to go. That's what my faith with my Father Almighty is with everything that I've seen. No one could tell me no. No one could tell me I'm wrong. No one could tell me I'm going crazy, because if you guys saw what I've seen, you guys, your faith will be unbreakable. Thank you so much, you guys. That is as much as I can share with you guys today. I talked too much. I feel like I talked too much. The video was way too long. So I think we're gonna end it here, you guys. So yeah, that's how I became me, and that's kind of what set me on this path. Other than when they kept me quiet from 22 to 24, they kept me quiet. And in 2019 November is when they said, it's time for you to give your predictions, start making videos and say your predictions. And that's what started this whole thing. Thank you guys so much for everything. That is it, you guys. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you for watching my story. I hope it wasn't too long, you guys. I just kind of wanted to give you kind of an idea of who I am, where I came from. Like I said, this doesn't come from my family. This doesn't come from a spiritual family that showed me how to do everything. Everything that I know came from God bringing me who needed to teach me this, and the angels that guide me. There's so much, you guys, that I can't begin to tell you, as in like who teaches me this stuff and where do we go, and the angel that comes from me in the middle of the night and takes me to this other dimension made out of beautiful light to teach me things. It's just, there's so many different stories I could tell you, and they're all real, they're all true. That's the crazy part. They sound like they're made up, but they're so true, you guys. It's crazy, but we'll see where we go, you guys. We'll see how everything goes. Thank you so much for watching me. Hit the like button, follow me on all my social medias, and you guys are amazing. Thank you for believing me. Thank you so much for following me, and we'll continue growing together.